Welcome to the webinar, the top 10 presentation slides to create instant business credibility. My name is Huayda Khater and I'm the founder of Magnas Media, a communication design agency in Vancouver, Canada. And I created this webinar and training program to solve a big problem that many of my agency clients encounter. Now, many of my clients come to me to create pitch decks, sales presentations, websites, and other marketing communication tools. And one of the biggest challenges is, what do you write on these communication tools? So it's really the messaging. How do you convey your message to your target audience, to convey your solutions, products, and services without sounding too salesy or pushy? How do you get strangers and people who don't know you to read your content and buy from you? And how do you get them to come back and buy more from you and refer other people to your business? Because really the secret to a healthy business is to have ongoing and repeat sales. Which really brings us up to the question is, how do you build and maintain business credibility? Because credibility really is the only way you can have ongoing and repeat sales. My objective really here today is to walk you through the top 10 presentation slides that can help you build and maintain credibility. And then in the end, I'll open it up for a Q&A about the slides. And then after that, we want to be mindful of everyone's time. So if you stay till the end, I will be answering questions regarding your business, specific business, and how we can incorporate your messaging into the pitch deck framework as well. Now, before I continue, I want to mention that there is some construction going on outside. So if you hear some trucks and noises, well, there isn't much I can do about that. So do leave your name in the chat. We are not going to be doing any chat right away, but if you do leave your name, your industry, and your target goal, then I'll be able to address them throughout the presentation. So what is the industry? What is the solution category you're in? Are you looking to raise funds? Are you looking to get more sales, get more clients? Or are you looking to attract strategic partners and employees? Or maybe just for your professional advancement. Now, pitch decks are a great tool to really use instead of resumes now, especially when you use that same framework. As you will see, it can help you show that message from the audience's perspective. So let's dig in and we'll get started, and I'll be checking the chat for some questions and we'll address them at the end of the presentation. So really our topic here today is credibility, and credibility is the quality of being believable or worthy of trust, because if people don't trust you, they're not likely to hire you or to do business with you. And credibility can work in your favors in two ways. The first thing is to attract the right people into your business, especially clients, customers, employees, investors, strategic partners, vendors, affiliates, and sponsors. All of these people are more likely to want to do business with you if you and your business are more credible. At the same time, credibility can work in your favor when you're applying for a loan or a line of credit extension, if you're negotiating terms of an agreement or pricing plan, when you're troubleshooting production with manufacturing and other suppliers. People are going to give you priority when you are more credible, you and your business. So this is where credibility can come in handy. But here's now the thing, is that credibility takes a lot of time and effort to build. You don't just have that overnight, because credibility is really based on trust. And trust, to have that trust, you need to have previous reputation. What's your previous reputation? Trust is also built on the value of the offers. How valuable are your solutions? Also integrity, your personal integrity in the business. Are you honest? Do you have strong principles and morals? Your commitment to get the job done. Consistency in messaging and experience. Reliability, which is really consistency over time. Clarity in communications and expectations, because that's really where the issues could come up, when there is no clarity, especially when it comes to expectations, and somebody feels that you broke that expectations, you're not meeting their expectations. That's where you could lose credibility very fast. And also genuine interest. Do you really care about your audience and providing the right solution, or are you just looking in what's in it for your business? And it also takes responsibility. So if you do, or when you do make a mistake, because everyone makes eventually some kind of mistake, are you willing to stand up and fix it and do something about that? Now, all of this takes up a lot of time and effort that many service providers, startups, and small business owners don't have. So the big question now comes up, well, how do you start a new business? How do you build that credibility if you're starting a new business but have no previous business experience? or maybe you already have business experience, but it's in a different industry or different category, or maybe you want to work with a new category of clients. Maybe you're working with consumers and now you want to address commercial or government projects. So how do you show that credibility? And this is where the pitch deck presentation outline can really help you here. Now, the pitch deck presentation outline was developed by the investment industry. That's because investors are busy and they don't have time to read long-winded business plans or to meet you for lunch so you can tell them about your business idea. They need a file with quick facts to determine if any presentation or any business is worth their time and money. And that's why the investment industry developed a pitch deck presentation outline. Now, most new and growing businesses that want to get a loan or attract new investors and partners use some variations of this outline. So if you take the time to answer all the questions on these slides for your business, you'll be ahead of most small and growing businesses that struggle. Now, most businesses, especially small businesses, don't bother to create a business plan or a pitch deck. Now, they'll only do that if they're looking for a fund or they're getting serious about attracting some other business partners, investment, or a loan. And that's why the pitch decks are usually associated with startups that need funding instead of small businesses. Now, a small business can be categorized as a self-sustaining organization capable of generating immediate sales and serving usually a small or a local market. So if you're a lawyer, accountant, if you have a dentist, you have a local business, or even a small and online business serving a small market, that would be a small business. And really the goal of a small business is to stay in business as long as possible, to keep generating that cash flow. Now, a startup, on the other hand, the goal, it's a young company creating sometimes unique solutions that have massive opportunities for future income, growth, and in some cases, an exit strategy. So a startup would be focusing on growth and also looking for ways to exit. Now, an exit strategy could be maybe a merger, maybe someone could acquire them, a new company could come buy them out. It could be that they become public on the stock market. There are many ways a company could exit and make a profit on the way out. Now, you might remember in recent history where Facebook bought out Instagram for about $1 billion. And at the time, Instagram was still a small company. There was only about 13 employees. Now we have even bigger deals more recently where Adobe, the software that creates Photoshop and Illustrator, that company has bought out Figma, another online design tool, for $20 billion. And they even gave the CEO on top of that another $1 billion just to keep him there to run the company. So these are really the aspirations and goals of more startups, that they're going to have some kind of a big exit strategy. But unfortunately, for most other startups, about 90% or more, that's not going to be the situation. They barely survive. Only about 10% make it, and very few make it to that level. But despite that, you find that startups are focused on that exit strategy. It doesn't matter whether they make it or not. They're planning for it. They're planning for that growth. And that's why startups usually have many phases of fundraising. Now, you might have a pre-seed stage where they're trying to first validate the idea. So they might need funding to do some research to see if this business is viable. Then they might have different seed stage, early stage, growth, expansion phase. There could be so many phases. And eventually, if they go on the stock market, then the public is really funding it with the stock market money. So even they're doing all of this fundraising even when the company has not even generated enough, sometimes money or even a profit. For example, when you look at some companies in the startup category, you've got Facebook 5 years before they made a profit, Twitter 12 years, you've got Oracle 15 years, and now we have Uber. They're generating so much investment money, but they still are not in a profitable category. So the big question is, how do startups convince investors to give them money when there's no guaranteed return on investment? What do investors need to know to make that decision if the company is viable or not? Now, even as a small business owner, when you're asking someone to hire you or buy something from you, you're really asking them to invest their time and money with you. So that's why when you're asking for new clients and customers, you need to look at them as investors. You need to thinking, what if they give me their money, what do they get as a return on investment? Now, plus you need that information for yourself as well, because if you ask yourself who is one of the biggest investors in your business, now if you're the business owner, one of the founders or executive leaders, that would be you. You are heavily invested in your business. You're putting a lot of time and money to create, manage, and grow a business, or to even advance your career if you're one of the executive leaders of a growing company. So you need to know if your business is a good investment opportunity, and any time it stops being a good investment opportunity, you either need to let go or you need to make some adjustments to your business. And that's why, as a business owner or executive leader, you need to know your numbers, business model, and pricing plans as well. You need these numbers to know when your business is going to break even, when you can make a profit, and also determine, are you building a lifestyle business, a small business that can support you and your family, or are you building something scalable and investable? Now, the good news is that you can repurpose the content of your pitch deck. So regardless of your application, you can use it for your messaging and branding perspective, because your pitch deck will form the foundation for your marketing communication, your sales presentations, proposals, and website content. And that's why I like the pitch deck style of business planning rather than the conventional business plan or even the Canva one-page business plan. Because with the pitch deck, you're creating a usable file. So you spend time planning, but at the same time, you're creating a functional file that you can use right away and put into action. You're not just planning on paper and you still have to do a lot of work. And another thing with the pitch deck is you can customize it to fit your audience. Now, in general, your business will have three types of audiences. You're going to have the investor communication if you're a startup and you're looking for an investment. Usually it could be, first of all, your friends and family, or maybe it's self-funded in the beginning. Then you look for banking, loans and grants. You might then eventually seek angel investors, venture capitalist, or if you become a public company, you might need that investor relationship communication to continue. So your pitch deck will always be functional and will have that similar framework and story to tell. And at the same time, you need that same content when you're doing your marketing communication. So whether you're trying to sell products, services, or you're looking for strategic partners, affiliates, sponsors, or even for any kind of corporate communication, you do need this pitch deck outline to convey the same story. And another forgotten audience that many people seem to neglect is the internal communication, which is your teams. So when you get people into your organization, you need to be giving them updates on your company goals and what is the company vision, because if you don't tell them what your vision is, they're not going to be able to bring your vision into reality. So you need to have this communication with your teams or anyone who joins your organization, and you need to give them brand style guides so they know how to represent your brand in the marketplace. And that's actually how I got exposed to marketing communications in the first place. I had a great corporate career working for IT and software companies in Vancouver, Canada. So through my employers, I got exposure to big industry and government projects, and I learned how to repurpose the same message for multiple audiences. Starting when I was working at a publicly traded company, we had to do this different audience allocation. So you can say I was familiar with big business problems, and it wasn't until 2013 when I started my own agency that I started to see the small business and the startup side of business problems and challenges, especially when I started my company in 2013. And since starting my business now, it's almost 10 years, coming on to 10 years or more, I've helped my clients generate over $500 million in funding and sales using the pitch deck, presentation, outline, and formula for multiple communication tools. Now, these are the numbers that I know of because many clients don't share with me what they make, but these are the numbers that I'm aware that could be much higher now. And that's how I got exposed to the startup culture and the concept of pitch decks. Now, the startup approach to pitch decks is startups and entrepreneurs put more effort into planning. And that's when I got to see how much time and effort they put to create this presentation outline, and how much time and effort they would put to repurpose this content and fine-tune it to different audiences depending on what stage of funding they're in, depending on who they are trying to bring in as early adopters. There was a lot of planning, and sometimes back and forth over a year or two, you could be working on the same pitch deck and using it over and over again to attract more people into your business. Whereas when I was working with small businesses, they would come to my agency and they will say, "Hey, Huayda, I need a website or a brochure." And then I'll say, okay, so what exactly are we going to be writing about? And in many cases, I found that the small businesses did not know what their story is. They were just approaching it, well, here's what I do. Can you put that on a website? Yes, but what is the problem you're solving? Now we know what you're doing, but what is it that you're doing for your market? And this was the piece that was missing. So really what you're going to be learning here today will be saving you a lot of time and effort, especially when you're creating your marketing communication tools, whether you're looking for funding or not. You're going to be able to tell your business story from different perspectives, most importantly from your audience's perspective as you work on it. Now, there are many pitch deck templates and outlines on the market. So depending on which pitch deck guru or which investment firm you're talking with, they're going to be giving you a different outline. That's because each investment firm, they have different industries they're focusing on, whether it's technology, whether it's food, whether it's manufacturing. So they might have their different lingo and different outlines. But I studied them all because I've been working with pitch decks on multiple industries, and I tried to find what is the common denominator between all of these pitch deck stories, and I combined them for you here on this unique framework that I put together. So if you look at them and you compare it to others, you're going to notice that I've grouped some categories under one section, because in many cases, as I walk you through the outline, you're going to notice that some of the categories actually can be grouped on one slide. In some cases, you might need more slides, but in most cases, you can tell your whole business story using this 10-step framework. Now, as I walk you through the presentation outline, try to ask yourself, how would these steps apply to your business story? So let's start with the cover slide. Now, just like any other document or file, we start with the cover slide. And, a lot of people say, don't judge a book by its cover, but we all know that that's what most people will do. And many people will be judging your pitch deck by its cover. And just like they will be judging your business sometimes based on the website that you have, there's that initial look. So that's why your cover slide is very important, and you need to treat it like a book cover. So at a very high level, really what it needs to have is your business logo, if you have one. You need to outline the service or company name or product name to get clear on what type of pitch deck are you presenting. Are you pitching an entire company? Is it only a product or a service? And also you'd add an intriguing summary of what your company does. That will be your value statement. And usually there's some kind of image that supports whatever your business is about. So in this case, you can see here a Canva template. Now, I want to give a caveat that I cannot be sharing my client presentations with you, so I will be using some commercial templates to explain the concept and some simulated examples as well. And there might be a few examples here that I got permission to use, but otherwise that's why we are using commercial templates. So this is a commercial template, and you can see here right away, you can see the logo, IT solutions and services. So you have to get clarity on the category of service, because if you know it, your audience might not know where it is. And then you have a value statement to help the audience understand what's in it for them. So in this case, it's simulated, helping you set up and manage your IT business needs. So they need to know this is what this business does. Now, in some cases, you might not need to add extra details if your name and the logo are intuitive. In this example, you've got loose fabrics. Right away, the name is intuitive what it is, and the picture complements it, organic and ethically sourced fabrics. So people know exactly this is, if they need this type of service, they will look at your pitch deck. Now, many startups don't even have a company name yet. It could be still in the idea phase, or maybe you haven't researched the trademark yet. You want to make sure you're not infringing on somebody else's trademark. So I've seen many clients where they just call it a project. They give it a project name. They start building the solution, even if they don't have a name locked down or a logo. So you can keep it as simple as that. Give your project a name, like this one here on the template, Sista, and then you add your value statement, making it easy for everyone to send and receive money anytime and anywhere. You can also find many templates like this where you don't even have a logo or a website, you don't have anything, but you need to specify the category you're in or the name of the business and have that value statement so people know what it is that you're building. And you can use the same formula when you're presenting your services. Even if you don't have any website yet, you can use the same application and start generating business using the pitch deck. And that's why I like pitch decks, because you can use them right away to start generating business, even if you don't have a logo and you don't have a website yet. So before you start spending too much time and money on advertising and marketing, you can test the market by using your pitch deck. Once again, look for templates where if you want to put your image, add details, you can keep it simple and go. So really the main objective of your cover is to convey the purpose of your business. And that's why you need that value statement. Now, there are many different types of value statements. I'm not going to dive into how to write them. I do that in some of my courses and workshops. For now, I'm just going to be giving you an overview of what to expect to put on these slides. Now, there's the most common one is the unique values proposition, which is a statement about the tangible results customers can expect by using your products and service. So that's kind of what's in it for them. Whereas the unique selling proposition is a statement about what makes you and your company different or better from other vendors. Now, in some cases, what makes you different could be the value that they're getting. So that's why many people use them interchangeably. So it doesn't really matter. You can call it whatever you like. The main thing is you need to come up with a statement that explains the value to your audience. So you're not talking about yourself. This is a statement specifically talking to your audience. And in some other cases, the difference could be that you could have one value statement for your entire corporation, and then you might have multiple selling proposition statements for each industry. You might have one for each of your product categories. So really, you can have as many as you like. You can change that depending on the objective of your pitch deck. If you're pitching one specific product, you would just pick something about the product. If you're talking about your company in general, then you would pick the whole general value about your company solutions. And I wanted to bring something up here as well while we're talking about the value statement is the difference between a tagline and a value statement. Now, a tagline is a short, catchy phrase. If you're lucky enough to come up with a short, catchy phrase that explains what you do, then good for you, but many businesses struggle to do that. So the unique value statement could be longer, which gives you a little bit more room with the words to add some more content. Now, taglines can work if you're a big brand like McDonald's or Nike. You've got the McDonald's, I'm loving it, or Nike, just do it. You can get away with that because they have billions of dollars in budgets every year on marketing, so they can create that brand awareness. But when you're a new startup or a small business, you don't have that budget on marketing yet. In many cases, you have no budget for marketing. So you need to find a statement that explains your solution. Now, I'm bringing this up specifically when you're working with sales or marketing teams, because I've seen this within organizations where the marketing team wants to be creative and they want to come up with a creative, catchy line, whereas the sales team is more concerned about sales. How do we get the sale? And usually, if you have to choose, go for clarity over creativity. Now, that's why in many cases, conveying the purpose of your business you might not be able to say that on the cover, and that's why you might need a second slide. So you will find templates on the market that prompt you to do a cover slide, and then on the first slide you look inside, you might see a place to put your mission statement. Now, there are many other statements you can add. It could be your vision, mission, your value statement, your philosophy, or maybe the About Us page as well. So really, these purpose messages, many corporations have them, especially if you're in the nonprofit or if you're in the education or anything with government and big industry. Usually you would have these statements to convey what is the vision of your company, the mission, what are the values you stand by, and your philosophy. So on a pitch deck, if you do need to add this content, you would have your cover slide, which explains the story, and then you would have a second slide where you put the vision and the mission statement as well, if you have them. Now, in many cases, some companies don't have a value statement. That's okay. You can just put the project name, and then you can say, well, what does your company hope to accomplish? That's why you would need them. Our values could be something like this, where you pick any 3 or 4, whatever categories you like, to explain what are the values for the company, just to show people what are the standards you plan to apply. Some companies like to take it a step forward and say philosophy. Really, I haven't seen anything set. It all depends on the organization. Some organizations like to share them all. Some organizations like to group them all into one structure. So you get to decide based on the personality of your organization. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because it comes up a lot with my client projects, where some of them want to focus on, should I add a mission or vision statement? My answer to that is, think about your messaging. Now, the first messaging, the tagline, value proposition, and unique selling proposition, really you're talking to your clients and you're showing them what's in it for them. Whereas when you're talking about the purpose statements, your vision, mission, core values, and philosophy, you're talking about yourself. So it really depends on the conversation and what stage stage of the conversation you're in. If you want to talk about yourself right away, now think if you're in a party and you meet someone and they're just talking about themselves all the time, are you going to be interested? Or would you rather have the conversation where it's a bit more engaging, and as you build that relationship, you can explain more about your solutions. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because you're going to see many pitch deck templates on the market as well that have these slides right at the front of the presentation. So you're starting like this example here. Pitch deck, and we still don't know what it is. Introduction, content, about, mission, vision, our values, and we still don't know what does this business really do, what is the problem it is solving. So in some cases, this might work if you're doing it internally for your teams, but when you're talking to a new audience, that's a lot of upfront content, and you need to focus on your audience first. Now, some other questions I get is, should I add my contact details, my website, presenter name, date, and version number? Once again, this will really depend on your audience and at what level of the conversation. If you're talking to repeat investors or internally, you might have to put a version number or a date if it's a limited time offer. So you have that flexibility, and also how well the audience knows you. If you're talking to a new audience, you don't want to dump your full story on them. As you build that relationship, you can start adding some of these extra statements that can help you close the sale. Now, I'll show you towards the end of the presentation a better location for these messaging. That's why I'm bringing them up here. Now, which brings us up to the executive summary. You're going to see many pitch deck gurus and investment firms suggest that you start with your executive summary. Now, the executive summary has its place if you are talking to repeat investors, or if you already have traction in your company and you have numbers and you want to show that on your pitch deck as a starter point, you can do that. So this would be a conventional cover slides. For example, this is simulated. You can say telecom, next generation telephony solutions, and you've got the value statement. And then the next slide, which you could make the front slide if you're talking right away to investors and you want them to see what you have accomplished and you're in a meeting, that could be the first slide you put on the projection screen. And usually an executive summary is a highlight of your company's accomplishments. So this is simulated, it's not real, but in your case, you can put what is your revenue, what's your target. You can put some of the numbers that will help investors understand them right away, what it is that you're trying to accomplish and what you have accomplished so far. But in most cases, I would say 90 or 95% of the cases, you need to keep it as simple and treat it like a book cover. So follow this hierarchy where you've got that hierarchy where people are reading from top to bottom and left to right, especially with the Latin languages, and keep that hierarchy to keep them on track. Now, in terms of tips, I would say keep it simple, remove clutter if you don't need it, and complete the rest of the presentation first and then come back to the cover slide. Because in some cases, you might not be able to come up with this mission statement unless you've completed the rest of the presentation, especially if you're starting a new business and you still don't have that messaging in place. Now, I created a checklist. I'll send you the link of the checklist so that you can decide what type of content you can share with different audiences, because you've got the investor audience, you've got the market communication, and the internal communication. And based on your audience, you might have to create different slides for them. So if you create your master pitch deck, which has all of the content, and you save that file with you, and then you can select which slides you want to share with different audiences based on the application. So now let's get to the most important part of the presentation. Now, if you don't remember anything of this presentation, which is very likely you're not going to remember everything I just said, that's a lot of content to put on you right away, I would say remember this section. If you forgot everything, just remember the problem and opportunity section, because this is the part that will rarely change in your business, and this is going to be the foundation of your messaging moving forward. Because really, when we think about the problem opportunity, the only reason people are willing to part with their money and give it to you is because they want something that you have in exchange. Now, the same principles applies to their time. People are not willing to book a meeting or an interview with you unless they know that it'll be a good use of their time. So you need to find a way to tell people that you have what they want. But instead of talking about your solutions right away, you need to tell that story from your audience's perspective. So really, by preparing that foundation of your story, you need to be asking yourself three questions. The first one is, what is the current state or the situation and challenges and obstacles your target market is facing? Number two, what is their desired outcome? What do they want to achieve? And then the third question is, what do they need to get from A to B? So what products, services, information, or connections do they need to go from point A to point B to achieve that desired state? And that middle section is the problem you're trying to solve. Now, as you dive deeper, you need to ask more questions. So what does your audience want to achieve? Now, there could be three possible outcomes here. They usually fall under three categories. Are they trying to stop an immediate pain? Whether it's a personal or a business pain, is it something related to them immediately? Usually that kind of stopping the pain is easier to sell because people are willing to do whatever it takes or spend as much money and time to stop the pain right away. So is that where your solution category starts? Is that what you're trying to solve? Now, the second problem could be prevention. Do you provide security, protection against future pain, loss, or obstacles? Is that, now this is going to be a harder sell because most people like to procrastinate, and usually they only address prevention when it's sometimes too late. So you might have to work a little bit harder on your messaging when you're selling prevention. Now, in terms of the third one is pleasure. It could be experience, comfort, convenience, or just pride of ownership. Now, if you look at your grocery or any kind of shopping over the last month, chances are a big portion of it was things that you wanted, not necessarily things that you needed. And so that's why this section is called the problem and opportunity, because you could be presenting a problem or you could be presenting an opportunity. Now, if you're talking to your customers, you need to demonstrate how your products and services or informations or connections can help your market achieve a desired state. So this is the opportunity for them, their desired state. And when you're talking to investors and lenders, really it's to demonstrate how your products, services, or solutions are in high demand, and you can demonstrate that they are high demand for the short term and long-term profits as well. Now, there are many frameworks that you can fill out for this slide, so I'm not going to dive deep into them. I do dive deeper when on my pitch deck masterclass and the workshop, but for now, I just wanted to show you an overview of what you can expect to put on these slides. So in general, you need to be demonstrating that this is a big problem, especially when you're talking to investors. You need to provide proof that this is a big problem that many people need to solve. You need to show a deep understanding, display how well you understand the problem and the complex market dynamics around it, and also a specific person. Explain who specifically is facing this problem and why do you personally care? Why are you personally vested in solving this problem? Now, if you have a personal story that is tied to the problem you're solving, that's going to make it more meaningful and more credible to your audience, because then it shows, okay, then you really want to solve that problem. And so that's why here I highlighted on this slide that really one of the fastest ways to build credibility, especially when you're starting a new business, is to explain why this problem is meaningful to you. By doing that simply, even if you haven't built your business, you're showing that credibility that you are really invested in trying to solve this specific problem. Now, some of the other frameworks you'll find are the problem story. Could be, what is the problem? Why is it a problem? And why is it important to solve this problem? And then the third question, why now? Why is it urgent? And why do you need to address this problem now? Now, you can do this all on one slide. So you can do that. And you can also use this real estate wisely, where you don't have to just call your slides problem. You can actually use that real estate and fill in a statement to explain that problem. So here's an example that I am sharing here from one of the companies I was invested in called Phil Connect. So you can see here at the top, we use that statement rather than just saying problem. We said moving dirt is costly and harmful to the environment. So, and then we listed the three categories that the construction industry is facing related to moving dirt. Because in the construction industry, you've got two problems. You've got one company, the construction company, which is building a new building. So they need to dig and get rid of all that dirt. And now they have to pay shipping and find a place to get rid of that dirt, put it somewhere. And then on the other side, you have construction companies that need dirt. Maybe they need it for leveling or maybe to reinforce the foundation. So you have these two parts of the industry that right now are not collaborating. They're all wasting time and money and resources to create to deliver their solutions, whereas if they collaborated, they could be saving more. So this is the problem where PhilConnect was trying to solve, and that's why we listed these problems in 3 categories. So right now it's heavy reliance on commercial dump sites. There is limited opportunities for industry collaboration, and also the rising cost of land and trucking fees. It's making it difficult for companies to meet their sustainability goals, because now sustainability is something on everybody's mind. How do companies stay sustainable so we can stop climate change, so we can make better use of our resources on the planet? So we had that as the problem slide, but we needed to aggravate it a little bit more. So we needed to add a why now slide. Now, why is this important? Because construction industry, they've been doing their job for years. So why would they want to change their habits now and adopt a new way to do business? Well, they need to do that because right now, part of the request for proposal is they need to show that they are being environmentally friendly. So now the construction companies have a vested interest to go out of their way to find sustainable solutions. So it's showing the investors it's a good time, and it's also showing the market that this is why you need to adopt this solution quickly. Now, you don't have to keep it complicated. If you're just starting out, keep it simple. Just use a slide, just jot down the first thing that comes to mind. What is the problem you're trying to solve? And even on the same slide, you can say why now. Why is it important to solve the problem that you have chosen to solve as a person, whether it's services or as a company if you're creating products and solutions? So really the main objective is to define the problem you can solve and get specific on who needs it. And being specific on the market will first of all help you so you can adjust your message to fit the needs. And it'll also help you save on marketing, because then you will know who you should be advertising and who you are writing the content to. And that's why you'll find some pitch deck presentations that have this target market slide. Now, if you cannot put your target market or your story does not involve the name of your target market, then you can add an extra slide, which could be, you'll find many templates on that, where you can just get specific on who is your target market. So in this simulated example from Canva, you can see here it's technology leaders, and it's also for small and medium businesses that have 200 people and less. So this particular company, that's the target market. They're going for the technology leaders. Now, internally, you might need to do a little bit more digging, and you might use something called the user persona. That's where you kind of create fictional characters and you start asking what are their goals, what are their motivations, what are their frustrations and their personality. And the more details you have on your target market, the better you'll be able to communicate to them, because then you'll be able to select the words that they're using to describe the problem, and then it'll save you time on creating these stories. And that's why you might find some presentations that approach it from a different angle. So they might ask who is facing the problem, why are they facing, why is this a problem for them right now, and how is this contributing to the main problem that they are facing. So this is where you can approach the story from a different angle. Now, you might have seen that if you watch Shark Tank or Dragon's Den, where a lot of people, when they're doing the presentation in person, they always start with who is facing a particular problem. So for example, from a pitch deck perspective, the problem would be that new and small business owners struggle to create market credibility. Most small business owners have a hard time communicating their value in the marketplace. They are usually new to business and don't have time, support, or resources to focus on communication. They have other areas of business they need to focus on. And lack of communication leads to missed sales and business opportunities. So now, of course, we would design this better and we would make it more appealing, but you can see how the story might flow. So it doesn't matter which story you use. The main question really you need to be answering in this question is, what is the problem and why do they need to address it now, and who is the target market that needs to address that? Now, in terms of tips, I would say focus on describing the problem and ask existing people who are facing this problem, or even existing clients, so you can use the words that they describe their challenges, and then adjust your target market based on market feedback. So when we started PhilConnect, we thought it was mainly for the construction industry, but then after a while in business, we realized that no, it could apply to farmers, it could also apply to landscapers. There are many people that need to work on that dirt swap system. So once again, create as many slides as you can, and then you can share different ones based on your audience. So if you have that master pitch deck with you and you're focusing your time and energy on creating these messages with your different audiences in mind, you're going to make it much easier for yourself to systemize your business, and also for anyone who wants to work with you or communicate with you. So now the big question is, if your audience cared about the problem that you just described, they'll stick around to learn about the solutions. If they don't care about the product or your solutions, you've saved them time. You've saved yourself time, so you don't have to do many conversations and meetings with them because they're not interested in solving that problem. Even for investors, because usually investors are trying to invest in companies that they also feel somehow connected to, or that something that's meaningful to them. So whether you're talking to investors or your market or even employees, you'll find that people are going to gravitate towards companies and solutions that are meaningful to them. So you've done the introduction part, you've kind of did that sorting, you help people identify if they want to continue or not. Now, if they want to continue, that's when you start presenting your solutions. So in this section now, there are three main components when you're presenting your solutions. You've got the general solution, you've got the product details, and you've got something called the underlying magic. Now, in many templates and pitch deck templates and gurus, you might find that these are three separate slides. You could expand on them. Now, the reason I grouped them is because they are all really your solution. So whether you need 1 slide, 2, 3, or even 10 slides to explain your solutions, this really all falls under that category. And I'm going to walk you through different scenarios so you understand the difference and how that might apply to your business. So now the solution would be your general solution. The product details would be if you have a product or you want to dive a little bit deeper about the product. And underlying magic is a term that was introduced from the tech industry. I think it was somebody called Guy Kiyosaki, and he came up with that term called the underlying magic, which is really something that is unique or proprietary or patented about your business. So this would more apply to technology startups because usually that's what they're focusing on. They're focusing on having something unique. But if you're a service provider or you're a small business, really your main objective would be to convey the solutions to your market and help them categorize if these solutions are right for them or not. So here's the example from Phil Connect that you saw earlier. Now you're familiar with the problem slide and the why now slide. Why is it urgent? So this is the story we're following. And now you get to present your solution. So this is how we presented it. We're talking about the solution is a dirt exchange platform that allows users to buy, sell, or exchange material with nearby project sites. So this is really the general solutions. We haven't even told them about our specific solutions, that if we want to solve this to a problem, the communication problem, is we need an exchange platform where people can collaborate, and that's how they get to save time, that's how they get to reduce their costs and trucking fees, and that's how they get to protect and preserve the environment. So this would be a general solution slide, and then you would dive deeper into the product. So if you have a product category, you would add that. Now in this particular case, we just put a few top features that are more high in demand, and you can see here it's just a capture of showing them it's an online application that they can use on a desktop or even a mobile device, and we highlighted the features that are specific to this product. So this is how you present your story from a problem, and then you introduce the solution. Of course, now you might adjust that based on your market. If you're talking to a new audience, you'd keep it very general. You don't want to give them the details. And as you progress with that conversation and becomes a warm audience or a hot audience, you'll have to give them more details about your solutions. Now let's take a look at an example that does have that underlying magic, which is a patented solution. So this is an example of a biocoal energy company out of Vancouver, Canada. And what they do is they turn forest residue into sustainable biofuel. So to explain the story, we needed 2 problem slides. Now, problem number 1 is that woody biomass is a fire hazard. Now, woody biomass is when you, for example, when loggers cut down a tree, you have that excess material that stays from the tree. About 70% of that number stays on the ground and it could rot and it becomes a fire hazard. And other sources of biomass could be wood chips. It could also be the drying trees because of global warming. It could be because of the pine beetles that are now eating trees and they're drying them from the inside out. So we have all of this excess wood that is creating that fire hazard. Now, problem number 2 is that CO2 reduction goals and guidelines are disrupting industry. Now, the whole planet planet, is trying to reduce its CO2 and be more environmentally friendly, especially to meet the environmental goals for 2030. But that goal is really very challenging for many industries, including the electricity the station, power generating stations. That's because a third of the world electricity is still generated using coal. So how do you make that transition, and how do you tell all of these coal operations and all of the manufacturings that rely on coal that you need to make this fast change when they don't have green alternatives that are fast enough right now? So we need to solve that problem. So this is how we introduced the solution, is because that's why we needed 2 problem slides, is because problem number 1 can solve problem number 2. So you can see here that the solution slide is very general. We're just showing how you can turn the excess material, which is causing all of this forest fires and is creating that fire hazard. If you take it through the patented technology, you come up with a product that is now usable, and that's called biocoal. It's called biocoal because you're creating it. It's not something that you have to mine for it. So this would be the general solution. Now, the specific product solution is because the question would be asked, well, is that product usable? Is it usable in power generating or is it usable for manufacturing? So then the second solution slide, which is really the product slide, is highlighting that biocoal does have that BTU heat value, which is similar to the coal that is mined. So we really have answered all of this question. You can see here with 5 slides, we've taken the user on a journey of what is the problem they're solving, what is the general solution, and then what is specifically is that solution. Now you can use the same formula even if you have a services business, and even if you don't have a logo, even if you don't have a website. You can find templates like this one here, which I found very effective on Canva, and you can just state the type of service you're offering. You can put your value statement, and then instead of talking about yourself, about us, values, mission, or whatever, you get straight to the point and you start talking about the problem to the audience. In this case, they didn't call it problem, they just called it major digital marketing issues. So try to pick what are the issues, or if you don't want to use problem, issues or challenges in your industry that you're trying to solve, and start your conversation by talking about the challenges. Next thing, you can talk about the general solutions. So before you dive, you don't even need that, but if you do provide it, it does give you that credibility where you're offering them, well, this is the general solution, and then you do the big reveal, ta-da, here's our company and here's what we do. And now if you do need excess details about your solutions, you can create an extra slide where you can put the specific category of solutions. If you're having repeat conversations or you're sending it as a business proposal, you can elaborate more on each of these services, so you can see how you can use the same framework really for multiple applications in your business. And that's why I'm very passionate about pitch decks, and I really feel every business needs to set time to create the proper pitch deck for their organization. So when you're looking at this category, even though they could be different slides, try to think of it as one story part. This is the solution to the problem you're offering. Whether you have an underlying magic patented solutions or not, it doesn't matter. Many businesses don't have that patented solution, but you can still find ways later on when we talk about competition, how you can relay that. Right now, you're focusing on the component of the solution. So my main tips would be here is create as many slides as you can, because it's always easier to delete slides, but if you're creating them as they come to mind of how you would tell that story, just jot them down. Create all of these slides, keep them in order, and then in the end you can delete the ones that do not apply. And try to create a diagram or a process to describe your solution. People might, it'll be easier if you just show them rather than write them. If you'll notice the one we did with the biocoal, it was just a simple diagram. People know, okay, this is the problem, you take it through the solution, the patented solutions, you come up with the product. It could be as simple as that. It doesn't have to be complicated. And if you have product screenshots or photos, this would be the time to share them. Once again, create that checklist and decide what audience gets to see what part. So now congratulations, because you now know how to present the introduction of your story. And really, this is the main important part of your presentation, because the rest of the presentation is more supporting content to validate what you've just talked about. But that introduction can really apply to 99% of all businesses. If you know how to perfect that, you're going to find it much easier no matter what kind of communication you're working on. So now let's dive a little bit deeper and see what other information you can add to add to your business credibility. Now, if you're talking to investors, or even for yourself, you are an investor or you're trying to attract people to come and work with you, you need to get clear on your business model and your market size. Now, these are usually stated as different slides. Once again, I group them because in many cases, you can put your market size on the business model slide as well. Now, many people also call it your revenue model. That's because really this slide explains how you make money as well. So if you're talking to investors, it's how you make money. And if you're talking to clients, I'll show you how you can use the same principle and you can explain to them how they can do business with you. And once again, really here, the objective of this slide is to identify if your business is scalable or not, and when you can break even, when you can make profit. Really, is your business worth investing in? And you need to get clarity on that. First of all, yourself, before you attract more people into your business. Now, another factor to consider, does the business revolve around you? Like if you're out of the picture, can this business operate without you? Or you can, is it scalable? Can it operate? Can you sell that business later on? Now, the good news is you don't need a big business. So when you were talking about big business and scalable, we're not talking about number of people, because most of the businesses in North America fall under the micro and small business, which are companies between the 100 and less employees. They are the ones that are generating the most income and also employ most people. So that's not the type of scalability we're looking for. Actually, it's more of the business model of how your business makes money. So this is a diagram I had created for one of my previous projects because I thought it simplified it, because sometimes you find many different income sources that could get complicated of where does your business fall. Really, the main thing you need to ask yourself, are you selling services, products, or do you have some kind of an affiliation or sponsorship kind of a business agreement, or do you have a licensing business model? And what type of income does your business make? Does it make active, passive, or residual income? So as we work on the different sections, I'll cover how these fit. So when you're creating that business model diagram, you get an idea of which ones is more likely to make money long term, which one is scalable, and which one is not. Now, there are many business model frameworks. I'm not here to explain that to you. So you can, there's courses and so many things about that. One of the easiest ways I did find, if you're still new and you just want to jot your ideas down, is to use this one-page Canva layout. And this one-page Canva layout is created by a company called Strategizer. So you can go to their website and they have different one-page setup. Now, they're a great starting point. It's not something you would share with the outside world, but if you're just starting your new planning process, this could get you asking the right questions as a starting point. So really the main objective of this one-page Canva is to answer three questions. Is there a desirability? So in reality, is there a market need for your solutions? That's what you need to answer. The second part, is it feasible? Is your business, can you bring it to life? Can you really bring that business? And then viability, is it really worth your time, effort, and money, whether it's for you or you're bringing people into your organization? Now, I won't dive deeper into that, but I highly recommend, if you have not done this yet, to go do that homework and ask yourself all of these questions and get clarity on them. Because if you don't answer them now, eventually somebody's going to be asking you these questions, whether down the line you bring people into your organizations or whether you're trying to find funding. Now, at a very high level, you're answering the main question: what is the customer segmentation, which is who is your target audience, because you need to know who they are so you can address their needs. The second one is the value proposition. What is the solution you're presenting to them? So remember, we just talked about the problem in the market, and the solution is your unique value proposition is the solution. The other question is the channels. How do you plan to reach them? And the reason you need to know that is because each channel might cost you money. So you need to, all of these questions, to factor in the cost in terms of time and money to deliver that service. Customer relationship. What type of relationship are they expecting from you? Are they expecting to hear from you every day, every week, every month, once in a blue moon? How often do they need to hear from you? Because the longer you need to talk to them and build that relationship, this is also going to cost you time and money. Now, once you've validated that desirability, then you start asking questions to see, is it viable? So the first thing you need to ask, what are the key resources you need to operate your business? Because you cannot, are you relying on something else to deliver that service, or is it something you just deliver yourself? Now, key activities as well. What are the activities you need to deliver that? Once again, these activities and the resources will dictate how much time and money you need to spend to deliver your service. And the other one is key partners. Who do you need to deliver deliver that service, because all of these three factors are going to cost you either time or money. So you need to factor that. And this will help you come up with a cost structure so you can understand the pricing of your business, which will also help you identify the revenue streams. So you need to narrow down which are the most profitable revenue streams for your business. So that is at a very deep dive level that you need to do behind the scenes. Now, in terms of a pitch deck, you would definitely would not be adding all of this on your pitch deck, and you would not be putting all of that information to all your audiences. Now, from a business pitch deck perspective, this is how you would present your business model. So if you recall, this is the biocoal energy company turning forest residue into sustainable biofuel. Now, can you guess what type of income streams can this company make? Let's see if you guessed right. So on the second slide, now here you can see this is their business model. Now their business model is very simple, but it explains a lot of things. So you can see here right now they've got 5 revenue streams. They've got 4 of them are products. So you've got the biocoal, biochar, Wonder Terra Prata, and oil extraction. These are all used in manufacturing and also in the energy sector. So they are B2B products that they can monetize. Now oil extraction is something that come up from the trees and they can use in the pharmaceutical and cosmetic industry. So this is something that could generate long-term profits. But the big thing here is the technology licensing. Now, because if you take a closer look, the products are really an active source of income, because to create these products, they have to be working to every time they sell them, they have to be creating a new product. So even though it's a product category, it's still an active source of income. Whereas when you're talking about technology licensing, now that it could be passive or it could be residual depending on the agreement they have in place. So this is the one that is really more scalable, because technically this company could not be involved in all of the product production. They could just license their technology to other companies in different locations who can use their patented technology and create these products. At the same time, now this diagram explains something else. Now, if you look at the top, it says get free access to biomass. So this is explaining the resources. What resources do they need to get this job done? And they need this woody biomass, which now they can get for free. So you can see how you need to create a diagram that explains all of these questions depending on your business model. And that's what the business model would look like. Now, at another level, it could be a new company. Now, this is another one for a company that was just starting out and they were not really clear, or they did not have any data to say where the money would be coming from. But this is at the high level. This is what they thought it would be coming from. It was a green energy firm. And so we wanted to use that tree format. We just showed that most of the income will be coming from B2B solutions, B2C energy solutions. And the one which is really a good one, as scalable over time, is the B2B technology licensing. So once again, investors, if they're looking for a scalable business, they're looking for something that the underlying magic, something that cannot be easily replicated by somebody else. Now, another way you put your business model could be revenue streams. If you already have data and you've already started to generate income, you can show where your income is coming from. It could be a simple diagram where you show different streams of income. It's very simple. On a pitch deck, you need to keep it very high level just to show where the income could come from. If you're a service provider, you can show different areas. It could be advisory fee, intellectual property, speaking engagements. Another way to show your business model really is to talk about the 2 components that do affect your business model, which is your customer acquisition cost, is how much time, money, and effort do you need to spend to bring people into your business, and how much money you can make with them over time. This is also something that would affect your business model. So in this case, I took out the data, but it was a diagram I did for a client project, and we wanted to show that how they have a low cost acquisition cost, so they're able to bring people into their business at a low cost. So it's explaining that message, and then it's showing that once these people are in the system, there's potential for them to make money over a long term from membership features, from referral and affiliate programs, the different offers that could be products and future services. So it's showing at a glance. Of course, there's more details need to be added on the slide, but this is kind of the high level picture of how this business will operate. And usually you would plug in the name of services that you are offering on your business model. Because really the question you're answering about your business model is if your business will be profitable or not. And a lot of the time, it's really, you need to get that balance of the customer lifetime value, which is when people come into your business, how much money do they spend with you over time? compared to your customer acquisition cost. How much does it cost you to bring a customer into your business? Now, if they spend a lot of money with you over time, then it doesn't matter. You can spend money on advertising and bring them in. It gives you that room and margins to expand your business. But if bringing in your customer is costing you too much money, and that's what ends up happening with a lot of the online stores and many people who are trying to use advertising, is it ends up costing them very high price to bring people into their business, and that customer might come and buy once and then they leave. And so now you're on a constant chasing, trying to find new customers to come into your business, and you're not able to reach that profitable stage. That's the part where many businesses eventually fizzle and go away. Now, in other cases, you might need to address your market size, especially when you're talking to investors, to explain your business model. Now, there are limited resources of pitch decks on the market. That's because usually successful pitch decks only, or companies that have been able to raise funds, usually only share their pitch decks after the fact when they become public or successful. So that's why many people use Airbnb and some of the common pitch decks as examples. And I wanted to bring this up so in case you are in that category and you need to explain the market size. Now, of course, you're speculating unless you've done extensive market research and you've narrowed down to specific numbers. The three categories you would need to be explaining is, first of all, the total available market, which is the general market. The second number would be the serviceable available market. This is the market that could probably benefit from your solutions. And then the last one is the market share, is the one that you expect to capture. Now, many of the new investors and startups, many of the new startup founders are usually very optimistic on this part, and they can expect that they're going to be taking a bigger chunk of the market. So really, you need to do your research here. Investors don't really pay too much attention to this unless you have accurate numbers and your solution is extremely viable and you have that patented technology. But I wanted to show you here how that might translate into your business model. So first you've got your market size, and then you can see here how Airbnb took that market size, the one where they think this is how much they're going to make money, and then they estimated if we make $20 from each person based on a 3-night stay at $70, they expect that they would be making $200 million in revenue, and that's based on 10% commission. So that's how they explain the revenue model when they're first starting. Now, of course, we all know Airbnb has a different business model now, which is a little bit more complex on who pays what, but this is what they use to raise funds. Now, another way you can share how you are focusing on the market is really by talking about a market segment. You don't have to give exact numbers on size. So you can showing a grow market segment. So for example, you can say that 55 million adults in the United States are age 65 and over, and that number is growing. It's expected to reach 90 million by 2050. So really you're showing that this is a growing market segment and you are focused on finding solutions for this target market. So this is where you might put a market size number as well as part of the conversation. Now, if you're selling products or services, really what you're answering in this section is, number one, how do they do business with you? And number two, what do they get in return? So really this is the question. So in this case, you might use a pricing plan. That's what we did for PhilConnect. You'll see many software companies do that, where they tell you how you're going to do business with them. If you're talking to investors, you don't necessarily have to put all the details. You can simplify it and just show the high level that you have 3 pricing plans and it's membership. You'll find many templates on the market that follow the standard, and you can do the same thing for your services. Now, if you package your services as a fixed pricing, you'll find that in some cases, some clients are going to be easier, so you won't spend as much time with them, whereas other clients are going to be difficult and they end up sucking your time. But if you average it out, if you have these packages, eventually it does even out, and it gives you that flexibility to present a pricing plan to your audience. So congratulations, now you know how your business model and market size can fit into your conversation, and most of all for you to identify if your business is viable. Is it worth your time and money? And if it is, that's when you start bringing people into your business, because really you don't want to be dragging people, especially friends and family, into a business if that business is not going to be making money. Especially if you're raising funds from your family and friends, you need to be very careful here. You don't want to promise them something and the business will not eventually make money. Now, in terms of tips, I would say consult with a bookkeeper, accountant to get that accuracy on your numbers, because your business model really depends on the numbers of your business. Adjust and refine and fine tune. Keep that pitch deck alive. You need that. It's a functional living file. You need to keep it alive and keep those numbers on your mind all the time. How do I increase the lifetime value of the customer? How do I get them to come back and buy more? And really examine your solutions on a regular basis and take out solutions that are bogging down your business and focus on the ones that are generating income. Because if you're not making an income, no matter how much you want to help your market, eventually your business will shut down. You need to find income streams that are able to sustain your business, because the only way you can help others is if you keep your business alive. So once again, this is a checklist. Now I'll be sharing the checklist with you, and then you can download it. And so to identify what you would tell based on the audience and the temperature of the audience. So now that you started to talk about money, it's time to reduce risk and build trust. So this is the part where you need to show traction. Now, traction means to show progress or momentum. So really the question you're answering here is, what have you done so far to prove that you can get the job done? If they give you their money, can they trust that you will deliver? Now, there are many numbers that you can share as traction. I won't dive into them all, but depending on your business, it could be your revenue, number of users, customers, your marketing numbers, it could be visitors, score ranking. There are many numbers. Anything really, a number that shows your business is going in the right direction would be a good traction number to show. So at a high level, a traction slide, you might show number of users, but you need to show it's going up. You don't just say number of users. Is that number going up? If it's not, then don't share it. That would not be good traction. Another thing, numbers to share, is the conversion rate. Is it going up? Your customer acquisition cost, is your marketing cost going down? If it is, it means that people are referring your business, so you don't have to spend as much on marketing, and it means you're optimizing your marketing budget. Is the lifetime value of the customer going up? It means they're coming back and buying more from you. That's good traction. It could be anything. It could be number of downloads, number of projects, certificates if you have a school. It could be your gross margins. Is that number going up? Any number really that shows that you are improving over time. And even if you don't have numbers, you can show attraction with milestones. What has your business accomplished so far? Maybe you filed a patent. Maybe you did the initial survey. So if you can put them on a timeline to show what you have accomplished and milestones, that kind of shows traction that you are on track. You have goals and you are focusing on how to reach these goals. Now, if you're still in the research phase, it could be your survey results. It could be your focus group data. It could be feedback from advisors. It could be feedback from test users. That would be good traction. Or it could be some logos. We did that for Phil Connect, where we wanted to show, look, some of the top construction companies in Vancouver have already signed up. That shows traction. It could be testimonials. That's what you do for a services business. What have your previous customers said about you? If you were featured in the media, that would be good traction. Or even if you're a new graduate, you could show some traction from school. Was there anything notable you did while you were during your college or university or even high school that you can put as an achievement to show that you are someone that is trustworthy and can get that job done? So you can see here how you can use the same formula depending on whatever conversation you're having. Now, in terms of tips, I'd say focus on results over time, measure and fine-tune based on feedback. You need to keep these numbers updated, and these are the numbers you would be tracking. So once you pick these numbers, these are the numbers that will help you identify if your business is healthy or not. So the first person really that needs to see the traction is yourself, because if there is no traction, that means there's something wrong with your business. So before you share it with others, try to focus on, is there traction for you as well? Ask for testimonials where needed, and create before and after case studies as well to prove that traction. So once again, have a traction list so you know where to share this data. So now, congratulations, you told the bulk of your story. It's now time to address your audience's questions before they even ask. Because one of the first questions people think about when they're about to make a serious investment or purchasing decision is, what are my other options? What options do I have? They need to know their options to ensure that they're making the best decision. Now, competition is one of those tricky things that a lot of people don't like to talk about. Now, I've seen different spectrums. I've seen people where they say, hey, we're going to smash the competition. And usually you have that in big business. That's how they become big business. And they focus on global monopoly. You find that in the government. You find that in sports. Competition is high in that category. Now, there are other businesses, maybe the conscious business or some small business where they say, well, I don't believe in competition, which is okay. You don't have to believe in competition. And then there's also some of the delusional founders who say, Waida, no one has done this before. And then when we start doing some digging, we always find someone who is creating a similar solution. So really, there's a big spectrum here. And part of the conversation, what you're really trying to convey in this section, whether you like competition or don't like competition, there's elements that you need to convey to help your audience make a decision. So it's not about what you believe, it's about what does your audience want to hear to make a decision. So depending on your business, it could be business on innovation. So what is unique or innovative about your business startup operations or solutions? Or it could be customer differentiation. What is unique, better, or different about your solutions, experiences, or something that the customer experiences? Now, if you don't like the word better, don't worry about that because you can use the word different. Now, you can show your competitive advantage by being different. Now, better means that you're superior in merit, rank, quality, quantity, or compared to others. Whereas different is where you're highlighting the distinctive, unique, unusual, or features that are unlike others from you on the market. So, depending on your business type and the personality of you and your business, you can pick whatever conversation you want to enter the market. At a very high level, some of the differentiators are, it could be the quality. Are you better on quality? Or what is it that you want to focus on? Or is it cost? Or is it the convenience and speed that you are offering? Now, you can rarely get all three unless you're a global monopoly. You might have to focus on one or two at the most. So try to pick where do you want to play in the business world. Now you can take it a bit deeper and dive more and use this matrix that was created by Michael Porter, who is a university professor known for his theories on economics, business strategy, and social causes. So Michael divided it into different categories. You've got the broad market, a narrow market, and cost and differentiation. So you get to decide which of these blocks you want your business to fall under. Now, the first one is the cost leadership strategy. That's where you are competing in a broad market and you're competing on cost. So think of IKEA, Zara, and Walmart. You can get good quality products for a broad market at a low cost. Or you could be focusing on a narrow market and going for the best cost strategy. So think about Lexus, where you can get high quality cars, but you don't have to pay as much as BMW or Mercedes. Or Netflix, where you can get access to a large content library that if you had to rent individually, you'd end up paying more, but because you're paying a membership fee, a low membership fee, you can get access to more. So they're competing in that space. Now, differentiation strategy, you've got also the broad and narrow market. Now, on a broad level, you've got a company like Samsung, where they have industrial and commercial products, and they pride themselves on being different. So whether they are different or not, many companies find that debatable, but that's how Samsung is positioning themselves. So they like to pride themselves on being the first company that created that curved large TV screen. They also like to pride themselves on being the first company that created the flip phone with a folding screen. So that's how you differentiate on a broad market. But for most people, it's going to be more on the focus strategy. Now, the focus strategy is when you're helping a narrow market and you're trying to be different on one particular category, and you get to decide how you want to be different. That's the good thing about that. It's not just price. You've got endless possibilities of being different. Now, at a high level, you can see a company like Patagonia. Now, Patagonia are known for being environmentally friendly. That's the cause of the company. They focus on fabrics that are recycled or are environmentally friendly, and they are also recycling clothes. Their whole solution is very focused. So that's how you'd use that focus strategy. Now, unless you know how to play global monopoly, chances are this is where your business will end up falling. You'll end up being on the focus strategy. And this is where most businesses will have a much higher chance of success. Because on a global stage, it's very hard to compete on price. Now, locally, you can compete on price because you can set your own prices and you can find local suppliers. But if you're providing a service or a solution on a global scale, you're always going to find another company or individuals who live in a low cost of living company, and they'll always beat you on price. So it's going to be an endless battle. So whereas if you find how to differentiate yourself on something else, your business will have a much higher chance of success. And really, one of the best ways to convey how you're different is by relating your brand story. Now, remember the slide from the problem section is where we said you need to be personally tied to the problem that you are solving. So when you're conveying that problem story, why is that problem meaningful to you? If you can find a way to articulate that as a founder or someone even as a service provider, this is going to be one of the biggest differentiators that's going to set you apart. Because your story is unique to you. Very few people can model your story or replicate it. Whereas if you pick something else, then somebody can eventually copy you quickly on that. Now, one of the successful companies that did use the strategies is Burt's Bee. So you can see here how they use that even for a commercial product. Now, it started by the family and how they created that. Now, I think the company is taken over and they have multiple products that you can see at big stores like Whole Foods and similar suppliers. They have different categories, but that's how it started. It started by the story of the founders and why they created this product as well. So this can help you set you apart. Now, if you are using your pitch deck for any kind of a software or a tool where you need to do a competitive analysis, you can display your competitive analysis that way. You'll find that common with different companies where they're comparing their services and features based on features of the product. You can also use a competitive advantage matrix where you pick two differentiators, whether it's cost or speed or any kind of differentiator you want, and you can show where you fit on that scheme of things. Ideally, you fit in the better category to show people how they can get more for less. You can also show the competitive advantage for your area of focus. So when you're talking to investors and you want to tell them why are you focusing on solving this particular problem, you can do what Canva did. Now, Canva has been a fast-growing company. I think they just passed the 100 million users. And they focused, this was actually their slide that they used in their pitch deck when they were raising funds. They were showing that it's a market gap. So they were showing that this is the area we are going to fill because there's nobody in that category. No one has, complete creative freedom at a low budget price. At the time when they were building that was not available. And they are leading in that space for sure. Now, another way is to list your best features. You don't even need to call yourself different or better, but you can convey that story to your audience and help them make that decision without you using the word competition at all. You can list some of the things that make you different. So, for example, this is a simulated example from Canva. They can say partnerships with major brands. Now, this would be a good competitive advantage because we have non-compete deals with major department stores. So remember when we showed you the business model and you saw that category that says key partners. So do you have any unique key partnerships that other people don't have? That could be your competitive advantage. So you can see here, if you do a deep dive, you'll eventually find something that makes you unique or different from someone, and you need to articulate that. And it works the same even if you're providing a service. Now, you'll find many websites that have this where they have why choose our services. You can pick usually 3 points. 3 is a good number to pick. There's always that power of 3 or the rule of 3 that is used in marketing and design. If you pick 3, it's easier for people to remember. Pick 3 items that make you different and talk about them. I use that on my website on Magnas Media. We pick 3 categories to show the clients why they would work with us, and this will help them differentiate. Are these points important to them? If they are, then it'll help them select us. So in terms of tips, I would say examine your competition on a regular basis. And you don't even need to think of it as competition. I would say examine the market on a regular basis. See what does the market want, because really your main goal is to provide solutions to your market. And try to find gaps where that needs more attention. And pick a niche market, ideally a market that is underserved so you can serve them better, and focus on your target market needs. If you're always focusing on the market needs, you'll never need to fight for competition because you're always solving a problem that somebody needs to solve. So once again, create a checklist so you can create these slides. Now create more slides, and in the end, when you're sharing them, you pick the ones you want to share. So now that you explained your solutions and your business model, it's time to explain your strategy of how you want to get people to buy from you. Because just because you built a business, it doesn't mean people are going to flock and start buying from you right away. And this is where many businesses struggle, is how do you get people to buy, especially the first few buyers. And that's why you've got that distinction between the go-to-market strategy and the marketing strategy. Now, the go-to-market strategy is your strategy and plan of how you plan to introduce your solutions to the market and get the first few buyers, because the first few buyers are the hardest to get. And your marketing strategy is really your ongoing activities that a company or you personally take to promote the buying and selling of services and products. Now, your go-to-market strategy, really the question is you're asking is who is most likely to buy first from you and how do you reach them? That's why many people in the marketing world call that the low-hanging fruit. Now, the low-hanging fruit are easy to reach. Now, think if you're in an orchard and if you're walking, the low-hanging fruit is fruit that you can reach with your hand. You don't need a ladder or you don't need any machines to reach them. So your go-to-market strategy is really to explain who you plan to reach first, who are your first few buyers. Now, there are many go-to-market strategies. I'm not going to dive into all of them right now. We don't have the time. But at a high level, usually it's probably going to start with people who know you. Now, you don't want to necessarily be selling to them, but if you tell them what you're doing, they'll probably refer some people who need your services. It could also be online platforms. There are so many platforms where you can list your products and services where people can find you. It could be social media groups. I got one of my biggest clients from a social media group simply because he was asking for someone with my services. It could be that you launch in a specific location and you prove your services there and then you expand. It could be a direct-to-consumer go-to-market strategy where you bypass different middlemen and you try to prove the concept. You can list it on platforms and go directly to consumers, or you can open your own online store and test the market first. It could be that you find affiliates and sponsors who can promote your product. So really all of these, your first go-to-market strategy, don't necessarily involve a lot of advertising just yet. It's just the first few buyers. How do you introduce your solutions to the market? Now, once again, the go-to-market strategy needs to be a big high-level picture on your pitch deck. So in this particular case, I wanted to bring that diagram that you've seen in the business model, because in many cases, your business model can also explain your go-to-market strategy. So in this particular case, we use the same diagram, but you can see here on a different audience, where the solution is they're planning to start their go-to-market in the academic world. So they're planning to release their solutions in universities where they can be tested, they can get more data, and then over time they will take it to the commercial world where as these students graduate, they take this information and data with them and take it to the market, and now they can introduce it commercially with the software, with custom solutions. Now, I changed the data in here. I don't want to show you my customer data, but I was just trying to show you how you can explain your go-to-market strategies is who are the first people who are more likely to buy. Of course, you can have different channels coming in, but you need to explain those first few buyers. That's what your go-to-market strategy is. It could also be a pilot launch where, for example, one client had an app and they were releasing it in one particular area. That was their go-to-market strategy. Prove it in one location. Once it's successful, you can take it to another location. That would be your go-to-market strategy. Now, your marketing strategy is your ongoing activities. So you've got your first few buyers now, you've proven the concept, now you're ready to start taking that message and taking it onto the world. Now, the thing about marketing is that it's becoming very complex and there are many aspects to marketing. I'm also comparing it a lot right now to medicine. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I used to watch that show called Little House on the Prairie. And there was the little village, and you got the little town where they had one doctor, and that doctor would usually do the diagnosis, do the treatment, and in some cases do minor surgeries. But now medicine is becoming a very complex industry. You've got a specialist for every different area, and you'll never find one person who specializes in every aspect of medicine. That's why when you go to see your general practitioner, they'll usually refer you to a specialist who has more specialized skills to do that. And it's becoming the same with marketing, especially as there are many new platforms, many new forms of marketing, communication. There's blogging, there's video, all of these platforms and advertising. There's marketing analytics. There's now with the AI involvement, with machine learning, it's really becoming a complex strategy. Now, unless you are the head of business development or marketing for your company, or you are providing these type of services, services, it's very unlikely that you're going to have time to master all of these. And that's why my tip here for you would be focused on strategies. Now, you don't need to be overwhelmed by having to do all of this yourself, but you need to understand some key components, and I'll tell you what they are and what you need to add on your pitch decks, because that's really what matters here. Now, strategy is really how your method, time, resources come into play to fulfill your company mission and vision. So the strategy would be part of also of your business model. That's how you see, how does marketing fit into your business model? That's the answer, really, what you need to be answering on this slide. Now, the tactics are the techniques you accomplish these goals, and the executions, of course, are the people who do the daily activities to deliver your marketing services. So at a very high level, what you need to be really answering is, what is the market size? So you need to select the market, which is your target market. So that's something you need to do. Select the pricing, which, if you remember in the business model, you had to answer all of these questions to come up at the pricing plan. You have to determine the budget. So you have to say, what is your marketing budget so that you can stick to it, and how can you keep your company profitable? And also select the analytics and metrics. You need to pick the numbers. What are the numbers that you will be monitoring in your business to tell if your business is healthy or not? And you need to understand reporting. So when you get all of these marketing analytics from your teams who are doing marketing, it doesn't even have to be a full-time team. You can hire contractors to help you. You need to be able to understand these reports on the strategy. So really, your key decisions are, you need to pick the message, which you already did with the problem and solution slide. That's why you need to get that messaging done. You need to pick the market, which is your target market, which you should have done in the beginning of the pitch deck as well. And now it's the time to choose the channel. If you saw that on the business plan, the media, how do you reach those people? And not only these three components, really, you need to find a way to reach them effectively, efficiently, and profitably. So how do you do all of that? And this is really a big challenge for many businesses. And that's where marketing analytics can really come and help you. So when you do employ someone or hire a contractor to help you with marketing activities, or whether you're doing it yourself, do have an analytics so you can monitor your progress. Otherwise, if you're just dumping money on marketing, it's going to be an endless pit with minimal results. What you're really trying to answer on this section is the customer acquisition process. Is how do you bring people into your business? So you need to be able to explain that, and usually it is visually or with a few words. And what is your customer acquisition cost? How much does it cost you to get that person into your business? Really, from a marketing perspective, that's what you're answering. And you need to be able to keep that balance of how do we keep enough money coming into the business so that we can keep generating or creating a better process for our business. Now, in terms of how do you bring people into your business, there are two major categories. You've got free traffic or paid traffic. Now, free could be organic or anything that requires manual labor. Paid traffic is anything that you can pay, like advertising, anything that can be automated and paid for. Now, in reality, I don't know why it's called free traffic, because it is manual traffic, because free traffic is never free. It is going to cost you a lot of time and money as well in manual labor to get that done. And at the same time, free traffic is not always measurable and predictable. It's rare, so it could be hit and miss. You never know when people are going to land on your content, whereas paid advertising is more predictable. You can create campaigns, you can measure them, you can fine-tune over time. So it is a little bit more predictable. So this is where, from a high level, you need to put that in your budget. Now, I won't dive into marketing. That's another whole different course on its own. But you need to, at a high level, decide what are these activities and how do they fit your budget. Now, on average, businesses spend between 10 to 15% of their revenue on marketing. Some people spend more, some spend less, depending on the industry. Usually, consumer products will need a higher budget because you've got more competition in that area. And you'll see it as well, the same thing with the retail. Retail ends up spending the most because they have a higher competition on retail, whereas you've got here big pharma spends the least. Now, they're spending the least because that's a percentage of the revenue, and big pharma makes a lot of high profit margins. That's how they're able to dominate daytime TV with all of the pharmaceutical products. It's like every ad is a pharmaceutical because they've got that big budget, and despite that big budget, they're only spending 2.6%. So if there's a way where you can make your business generate that much sales at a low marketing budget, then that's really would be the ultimate goal for most businesses. Because remember, we're trying to create that balance. Is how do you keep that business profitable is by really extending the lifetime value of the customers. You need that customers to keep coming back buying more, and you need to level that up with your advertising cost. So really, this is what your go-to-market, a marketing strategy slide is about, and you need to explain it visually. So in terms of tip, I would say focused on the strategies, identify 1 or 2, 3 channels, test them out. You'll never know. It's very hard in the beginning, so you have to do some testing and budget for it. Hire specialized people. You rarely find someone who can do all of this on their own, depending on the channel you're going to pick, and dedicate at least 10% of your revenue to marketing. Once again, do a checklist. In this particular case, investors are only interested in your strategy. The market just wants to know where they can find you, but your teams will need to know all the details, because once you hire people to execute that marketing for you, they need to know all these, so they need to keep that balance. They need to know what's the budget, what's the target market. Which brings us to the team section, because you'll rarely be able to build a business on your own. You always need that team, and especially when you're talking to investors. Now, if you are looking for investors and you're the only person in the company, it's very unlikely you're going to get funded. You need to explain the solution of how you have different teams in your organization and who is in charge of what, whether that teams are somebody full-time or whether they're outside advisors. You need to be able to convey that message, because whether you're talking to investors or you're talking to the market, they want to know who is asking for my money. So this is your chance to talk about yourself and your team. Now, at a very high level, you've got the leadership team, and the leadership team would be in charge of business development, product strategy, brand positioning, business development, legal and financial. These are very high-level leadership decisions. And then you've got the management team, which helps bring these visions to reality. They manage the operations, which is the everyday task to keep your business going. So now the big question for you is, what is your area of expertise? Because you need to find people who fill in the gaps that you don't know. And so, for example, in my case, I focus more on brand strategy, positioning, and product strategy. So that's why I'm usually more involved in the product development and the messaging side of business, with the production. And I get people to help me with the business development, with the legal, financial, and other aspects of my business. Now, I do run a lean operation. So I do work with many contractors, and I do hire for specific categories. I never hire one person to fill in a general role. I found over time, I learned the hard way, it's better to pay higher prices for someone who can get the job done right the first time than hire someone who's trying to be a specialist at everything. So usually if I have a project and I need help, I hire a development team based on this language. If I'm doing some kind of different projects, it's always someone who's specific on the platform, because it is becoming a specialized skill. Just because someone says they do a website, it doesn't mean they can build on every platform. So this would be a tip here. So if you're starting your business, some of the resources you can get would be starting locally. Try to find people locally. If you don't have anyone in your business right now, look for business incubators in your area. Now, business incubators could be a company or a nonprofit or government organization that do help startups. They could give you some tips on, give you advice. Or if you already have some traction and you're building, you might find a business accelerator. These are programs that give developing companies access to mentorship and investors and other support that help them become stable, self-sufficient businesses. So make sure that you find somebody who is specialized in your category, because of course business has many categories and industries, and you want to make sure when you bring people into your team, they are familiar with that business industry that you're in. Now, if you can't find them there, you can go to resources like PitchBook. You'll find advisors in many categories there. So depending on what area you need, you can hire someone part-time or on a temporary basis to fill in that gap and guide you to fill in some of the content. You can go to websites like Top Talent, where you do find freelance consultants there. There are many as well. You can go if you're just a casual question or you need marketing help, content, or something relating to maybe financing, bookkeeping. You can also find people on platforms like Upwork. So you don't necessarily have to hire somebody full-time. You can grow that organization and keep it lean. But really, from a high level, what you're explaining on your slide, especially to investors, is who is in charge of all of this, the main important areas. So this is a template here, a slide template from Canva, where you can see what I like about it is you've got the 3 people and you can tell right away who is in charge of what. So the first person is business business development. The second is the product development. And the third person is finance and legal. So really this shows that this company or has a group of people who are covering the main areas. Another way to convey it, even if you don't have a company, you can show that this is how we plan to present our organization. We haven't hired the team yet. Here are the placeholders. We still have some openings, but right now we've got 2 full-time staff. The rest will be on demand. And here are there's the hierarchy we've created. So if you create that chart, it just shows that you are thinking ahead and you are planning for your organization, even if you don't have these people on your team right now, or even if you're hiring them on a contract basis. Now, you'll find many templates that help you convey the team, so you'll never run out of options. Some of the issues you need to highlight, though, is who is temporary and who is permanent in your company. Now, if you've got a board of directors, usually a board of directors would be an executive committee that jointly supervises the organization. In some cases, they could be legally tied to your business, so that would be a board of directors, whereas an advisory board is an informal body of outside experts with no legal responsibility. They can fill in the gaps in expertise and in contacts as well. They can introduce you as well. So if you're presenting this on a pitch deck, you need to maybe specify who is permanent, who's not. So you might do a slide. If there's one owner only right now, you put the founder on one slide. You could then have other people who are advisors on a separate slide. Really, there's no rule here. You get to decide based on your content. And you need to also mention, especially if you're looking for investors, if you have other investors in your company. Now, investors could be someone who is invested in your company and they do have an active role in management. They have a say in what happens in your company. Or do you have a silent partner? There could be some people who are investing money in your company, but they're not involved in your operations. All they're doing is giving you money. So you need to get specific on that, especially when you're talking to more investors as well. And they will ask you for something called the cap table, which is your capitalization table. So they will want to know who else has a share of your pie in the company. So a capitalization table could be a spreadsheet or a table of names of who owns what and what percentage as well. So my tip here would be for you on the team slide of how do you present that solution, of course, is to add titles and clarify the roles, keep the bios short and to the point. Really, the main point you're covering is who is in charge of what. And when you are talking to the market, now this is from an investor side of thing, but when you're talking from the market perspective, what they're really interested in is not your investors. They're interested, if I have a question, who am I giving my money to? Who is the support team? Who is the leadership team? The more you explain about your organization, it's just going to help you build that credibility. So even if it's just you right now, if you have a support person, you might mention them, hey, if you have support, contact the support number. So it just shows that you've got a little bit more structure in your organization. And of course, internally, your internal teams will want to know if there's who else is on the team, or if they have a question, who do they go to as your company starts growing. So this is where your team section will come in handy. So now you've started your introduction, and now you built the main foundation of your story. You've supported the introduction, and now you're getting ready to make the final ask. The final ask depends on your audience. Are you asking them for money, for funding, for a loan, for a grant? Are you asking them to buy? Are you asking them to join your organization? What is it that you are asking them to do? So before you do that, you need to do one final step, which is talking about your goals and financial projections. Because you need to build that confidence before you ask people to come and join you on a journey. You need to show them, I know where I'm going, and I'm asking you to come and join me on this journey. So can you explain to them where you are going? Whether you're talking to investors or whether you're talking to the market, sharing your goals can help you build that credibility. And so that's why now I group these things where it's called financial projections and goals, because really this is part of the same conversation where you're telling people, here's what I'm planning to do over time. Now, in terms of financial terminology, I'm not going to get into it, but these are terms you would need to get familiar with, especially if you start talking about financial projections. So do consult with an accountant, do look up these terms. You'll find many of them online, so you can understand if an investor asks you, you will be able to answer all of these questions. But from a very high level, really, if you're giving financial projections, if you already have results, you would be sharing your financial statements. And financial statements are usually use generally accepted accounting principles. Whereas if you're a startup and you still don't have any income and you're making predictions on how much income you would make, you'll be sharing something called a pro forma sheet. And that's something really, it's speculation in numbers, and does not use generally accepted accounting principles. So that's really the main difference here, if you have numbers or if you don't have numbers. Now, you only need to share these numbers, of course, if you're talking to investors and you're getting a loan. You don't need to share it with the market. But this is why I wanted to bring it up as well, is how do you come up with these numbers? How do you come up with these projections if you don't have sales before? So you would first of all calculate, remember that business model we talked about? You have to calculate the key partnership, the key resources and key people, activities that you need to do. So you need to factor all that in to come up with your pricing predictions so you can predict future income. So first of all, I'd say create a list of your products and services with a pricing plan based on the business setup and expenses. Number 2 is set goals based on your business, production, marketing, and sales capabilities. How much are you really capable of selling? And then create a pro forma to calculate your financial projections based on expected sales for your business. Now, if you've never done this before, of course, you'll need to consult with someone who's done this. So that's why I would say go to PitchBook. If you're doing a pro forma for a particular industry, find someone who's done these financial projections for companies in your particular industry. Or you can even just look on LinkedIn. For example, I was trying to find you an example, and I found this person here, Mike Lingle, on LinkedIn. And he has a whole website that talks about creating financial projections, especially for startups in the technology industry. So in his article, he shared 2 examples, because I can't show you my client's files, so I have to show you public examples. So here you can see how he created a pro forma sheet. So this is something you would share at the second or a third interview, a second meeting. You would not share it right away in your pitch deck, but he's just trying to show of how he's coming up with the numbers of how much the company can make based on their expenses and what they can expect in income. And this is another one, pro forma sheet, where he's broken it down by month as well. You can do some of that as well, so you can get a better expenses. But in general, if you're speaking to audience for the first time, you would just show the high level. You can just show our 3-year goals is we're going to get 6,000 subscribers by year 3, and these are our projected income. So there's something like this. And then if they ask you in the meeting, well, how did you come to these numbers? Then you can show them the detailed charts as well. Another thing, if you're still new, you don't have any numbers at all, you can just say our 3-year goal, we expect to get 20,000 subscribers, and based on that, we can get 20 million. If you have multiple revenue streams, you can break it down, show where will your revenue streams be coming from. So that could be a way where you can show your financial projections. You don't even need to put the details. You can just say our goal is that by year so-and-so, we're going to be making that much money. That could be a way to show your projections. Now, another one, which brings us to the purpose messages. Now, remember these purpose messages we talked about in the beginning, where many templates tell you to put them in the beginning. I think this is a better place for them, especially when you are presenting to the market as well, and even to investors. Before you start talking about yourself, if you end your presentation, before you make the final ask, you tell them these are our goals, and this is a good position to put your vision and mission statement, because your vision really is the big picture and long-term aspirations for your company, and your mission is the plan to achieve your vision. And then if you need to, if you have, depending on the type of business you have, you can add your core values and philosophy, or you can just reserve those to your website. They're best not kept in your pitch deck. So we did that thing for Phil Connect. You can see here we did share our mission and vision statement to say what is the company up to. So this would be a good part where you can share this your goals. Now, another way is you can build credibility and share your goals at the same time. That's when you create a timeline, so you can show traction. You can say, here's what we've done, and this is our goal. So in a way, you can sometimes combine traction with your goals. So it's really a bit flexible, but now when you know how they're used, you get to decide what works better for your organization. Now, another way, even for local businesses, even if you're a service provider, you can just say this is our future roadmaps. Now, I do see many spas and restaurants and businesses do share that, for example, when they're opening a new location or when they're adding a new menu items. They give you that projections like, look, we are creating new things that are coming, new products and services. So if you're sharing these goals with your market, you find ways to communicate more with them, and you're building that credibility because you're showing that we're sticking around for a long time. We're creating new innovative solutions to help you in the future as well. So this is where you can share your goals and projections before you start making any requests from your clients as well. Now, in terms of tips, I would say avoid adding confidential goals and numbers. These only need to be shared with the subsequent meetings. Make sure your numbers make sense and you're not over speculating. I do know that many startups are always over optimistic on the numbers, so try to be realistic. And it's almost better to under promise and over deliver than over promise and under deliver, especially when you are recruiting your friends and family as investors. You don't want to be taking their money and not find ways to, and promising them the world when there's nothing really there. So I would say be cautious on your goals and predictions and make sure they are well-founded. And by creating your pitch deck, you are creating that foundation for yourself, starting with yourself. So now we get to the most important part, is what do you want your audience to do next? That's the call to action. Now, of course, if you're talking to investors, then really you are asking them for a meeting the first time, because nobody's going to give you money right away. So your first goal is to book that meeting so that you can do a more detailed presentation of your pitch deck and try to bring them on board. And then, of course, if you are asking for money, you're going to add a slide called the use of funds. So this is where you tell them, what do you plan to use this money for? Even if you're getting a loan, you might have to answer that questions. Now, in terms of the marketing communication, your call to action could be anything. This is why I love pitch decks, because you can customize it to book a call. It could be contact us, subscribe, order now, buy now, other. You can think of many other calls to action since you built that story, and now you can ask them really for anything, because now you've told them the story. If they stuck around that long, they're ready to see, well, how can I be involved in all of this? Now, for your internal communications, you do need to have a call to action. You need to use your internal your pitch deck as a messaging guide, and you can also need to guide your teams to create their own goals. That's what many big corporations do. They say, well, here's the corporate goals, now take it and make goals for yourself, and let's meet those goals. How are we going to work together to reach the company goals? And it's all by achieving these little small goals. Now, if you're asking for money, you need to say what you're using it for. So it's very common to say, this is the amount we need, and this is what we need to achieve in this seed round. That seed round could be a specified period of time. You have to make that clear, and you need to show if you've raised money before as well, so that you can have that conversation. Or you can say, we are raising a seed round of whatever number that is, and you have to tell them what it is that you are giving them in exchange. Is it usually there's some kind of equity? So I won't dive into that because it's not an investor presentation, but you need to get clear on what is that exchange. If you're talking to the market, it could be connect. You can end your pitch deck with just connect, go to the website, become a member. You can drive a membership. So you can see here how you can use that. Order now. You can guide them to your online store. Services, how can I help you? You can just have your contact details, get in touch. You can really, the possibilities are endless. So your call to action really checklist here, once again, you can see how you can adjust it for different audiences. But once you have clarity on that, you'll be able to communicate it to others. So now that you know how the full story goes, you need to ask yourself, how does your business story, how will you be presenting your services and solutions to the market? And what elements of this pitch deck will you be adding to your slides? Now, I can imagine you've got many questions right now, and so we'll take it up to the chat. But before I open it up to the chat, I wanted to let you know about my other services in case you do need to leave and you have other questions. You will find more details on my website, Magnas Media, where you can find the program, the Pitch Deck Masterclass. In case you do like an online training experience, you'll get a template and a workbook that can guide you to create your own pitch deck. Or if you prefer to implement in person, you can attend the Pitch Deck workshop. We'll get 3 full days to focus on your strategy, content, and design, and I'll be there by your side to help you create that pitch deck in a focused and a productive manner, that will help you get that. And of course, I do have through my agency the done for you and done with you services. So if you need to have a strategy call on your pitch deck, or you need some help with your content and design, I do offer that services through my company. So I invite you to go to Magnas Media. Otherwise, I'm going to open it up for questions right now. And if you don't get your question answered in time, you can find me on LinkedIn and also my website, Magnas Media. So let's take it up for the questions. Okay.